Hey, what's up guys? In this video, I'm gonna be sharing my top 10 tools that you can use in Luminar to speed up your editing, but stop all the confusion and guesswork when it comes to photo editing. It doesn't have to be overwhelming when you're using Luminar. I'm gonna show you exactly how in this video. Hey, what's up guys? My name's David Johnston. This is the Landscape Photography University channel where we help you take photos you're actually excited about. So if you're interested, hit the subscribe button and ring the notification bell. Let's jump into tip number one. Number one is going to be my super sharp AI tool. Now, the elephant in the room with this photo is that it's blurry. Either the camera was knocked or it was handheld and it was motion blurred with the movement of my hands. So when you're looking at this, I'm trying to create a super sharp look to this. You can actually bring photos back using super sharp. So I'm going to use a universal. You can also do a motion blur effect here, but I'm going to use universal, and because everything is so blurry in the photo, I'm just going to click high, and that's going to correct some of that blurring. Now there is still some blurring going on, so I'm going to switch it over to motion blur, and I'm going to do the exact same effect. So where you had motion blur, especially with this main subject down here in the foreground, that is completely removed now thanks to the super sharp AI tool. I can zoom in here to show you that, and also these little ice pieces down here in the other side. Tip number two is using the Twilight tool that is now available in Luminar. One of my new favorite tools to use in Luminar. So you come down here to Twilight Enhancer, and I'm going to click on this. Now you'll see you have a lot of presets in Twilight Enhancer that you can use, and you just scroll through those and see what they're actually going to look like in the photo. I'm going to hit Controller Command Z to undo that. What I think the best use of the Twilight Enhancer tool is to look at what colors are available already in your photo and then try to match the Twilight Enhancer with those available options. So you see a lot of blue here, some pink. So I'm going to come down to mauve because I feel like that's really going to reflect what was actually available in the scene. And it does. Now, the beauty of this is you don't have to overdo it to make it unrealistic to what you actually saw in the field, but you can actually drop that amount down to add just that right amount of lighting in your photo to enhance that. So let's look at the before and after here. Blurry and unedited, and now we have crisp and clear and sharp, and you have beautiful colors in there, and that's just after 2 quick clicks of the mouse. Number three is removing the dust spots, and this has never been easier. So all you have to come to is the erase tool, and there's a little button down here that says remove dust spots. All you have to do is click that. I don't know if you can tell by my glasses here, but they're very dirty. My lenses aren't any better than that because I don't clean them very often, admittedly, and this tool saves me a ton of time. I used to have to go into Lightroom and Photoshop and click throughout the entire photo to remove dust spots, but this quickly takes care of that entire process. I'm not sponsored by Luminar, by the way. I just think these are really good tools that are going to help you out as a photographer and speed up the editing process and make your photos look better. Number four is the atmosphere tool. So what I'm going to come down to here is the atmosphere effect, and I have different atmospheres here. Now, it is tempting to kind of add atmospheres in here, but what I like to do is to see what is actually going on in the photo and try to mirror that effect of what could be or what was happening a little bit with the actual effects that are going on in the atmosphere tool. So for this, you get a lot of crashing waves. It's a little cold, it's misty or hazy. So I'm going to play around with those. I'm going to select mist with some of that sea mist coming off of this, and I'm going to increase that, but also reduce the depth in that photo. So I'm going to bring this all the way up so I can actually see where that's coming in. I'm going to drop the depth here to around down close to the foreground, and then I'm going to decrease the lightness of this and then decrease the amount of that. So I've actually added a little bit of mist, a little bit of atmosphere here to the actual photo to create that misty oceanic look to the photo. Next up is water enhancer, and if I just go to water enhancer here, I can increase that to see what it's actually going to look like. Now you can go pretty crazy with the water enhancer here, and I could make it look unrealistic. My one tip for everybody photo editing their images is to actually pull it to an unrealistic point, but then slowly drag it down to a realistic point. That's how you pull the most information out of your image file while also keeping it looking realistic. So I'm I'm gonna bring it up to unrealistic, and then I'm gonna slowly drag it down to realism. And then I'm gonna play around with how much blue I want in that photo, how much green, how much of the original color I want coming in, and also the brightness of the water. I'm gonna brighten that up a pretty good amount, and there we go. Now I've enhanced my water. In just a second, I'm gonna show you the other 5 that are really gonna take your photo to the next level. I mean, look at what we've already done with the before and after slider here. This photo looks so much better, as we can see, with the before and after slider. But first, if you've ever struggled with your editing or your composition or how to photograph in general, I want to invite you to join Landscape Photography University. In LPU, we have tons of students who has benefited from the over 14 courses that we have in there, exclusive photography summits, and member-only photo critique sessions that happen weekly. This is going to help you elevate your photography. It's usually $300 per year, but right now I'm running a special for YouTube viewers only. If you click down below, it won't be $300 for you, but it'll only be $129 per year. Forever. You're locked into that price. So click that link in the video description or in the pinned comment to get that deal for LPU. Let's jump to the next, and that's going to be the Relight tool. Relight tool helps you increase the brightness near or far and helps you adjust and balance that light in your photo. So for near, I want that to be the brightest part of the photo. Your eye is always drawn to the brightest part of the photo. Remember that. That's a huge composition tip. So again, I'm going to pull it up to unrealistic and then slowly drag it down back into realism. And then for the brightness far, I'm just going to drop that slightly. And then I can play around with the depth. How far of that brightness do I want into the foreground? And I think that's a really good point there for getting the relight into the photo. So we're making huge progress here, and it's only taken a few short minutes to get this professional look to an otherwise terrible photo that would have been unusable. Next is Mystical tool, and the Mystical tool is really fun to play around with. So with the amount, you'll see that it really adds this kind of like misty, hazy, kind of like Lord of the Rings look to your photo. I don't want that everywhere, so I'm just gonna add a tiny amount of this mystical look in here. So I'm gonna pull it up again into unrealistic and then drop it down. Now, I don't want that in the sharpest parts of my photo, so here's where the next favorite tool comes in, and that is the masking tool for this. Basically, what masking does with any of the tools that you have available for you in Luminar, it allows you to only place that effect easily into what part of the photo you want it in. Let me show you how to do this. I had a pretty extreme amount of the mystical effect coming in, but I don't want it in the actual foreground. So what I'm going to do is go to masking, and I'm going to go to brush. Basically that resets the entire photo, and I'm only going to paint in that mystical effect where I want it. So I'm going to add it to the ocean here, and that's kind of going to play up on the hazy effect that I put in early. So I'm just going to paint that in only to that point in the photo to make it look a little bit misty, mystical, and hazy in that image. The next tool is the glow tool, and that's going to actually add something called the Orton effect into the photo to make items glow or brighten them up just a little bit. So I'm going to come down here to glow, and I'm going to scroll down to Orton effect soft. I'm just going to increase the amount that that's in there. Now I only want this to be in my sky, so I'm going to use my masking effect here again, and I'm going to paint in that Orton effect only into the sky itself, because I don't really want a lot of my foreground to be too bright. Just gonna try to get where you can't really see that effect coming in, and there we go. That looks pretty good where we have it in that image. Now finally, the last tool is the dodging and burning tool, and this is kind of like the editing tool that photographers like Ansel Adams have used for years, even back to film photography days. So I'm gonna go down to dodge and burn, and they make it really easy for you to learn. So a lot of people don't know the difference between dodge and burn, but Luminar makes it really easy. You're either going to lighten or darken those specific areas. So I'm going to start on lighten, and I'm going to lighten the areas that I want to draw your attention to, and I'm going to darken the areas that I want to draw your attention away from. So I'm just going to use this brush, and I'm going to quickly paint in the ice piece down here as my foreground. I'm going to drop my brush size and paint in some of this ice down here, and I might actually increase that brush and just paint a little bit right around the piece of ice. And then for the amount, I'm just gonna slide that down just a little bit to allow you to not be able to see exactly where I've painted in. And that just brightens up that ice piece just a little bit. And then for darken, I'm gonna come around and kind of just darken the areas around that as well. And you can also use this to create your own vignette in the photo, kind of paint in the corners to bring more attention to wherever you want it to be. So those are the 10 tips. Let's look at the before and after to see what we actually did to this photo. So I'm gonna come down here to before and after, and you can see before it was blurry, it was too bright, there wasn't a lot of color in the photo, and then with just a few clicks of the mouse, we've sharpened the photo to make it usable again, and we've added realistic color to what was actually in the landscape using the tools of Luminar to allow us to do that. Now, with some of these tools, you would have spent hours in something like Lightroom or Photoshop to do this, but in Luminar, it's just a few clicks of the mouse. So I hope this helped a lot. If you want more Luminar tutorials, go ahead and click this playlist showing up right here.